Welcome back, everyone. We're here with another Q&A. It's Friday morning for some people, but not others. Anything that I say is definitely not meant to bypass your medical doctor and give you any type of cures. So just check with your doctor before you implement any of the things that we're going to talk about. Steve, let's just jump right in like we normally do. Okay, true or false? Deficiencies of some heavy metals like arsenic, lead, could be the result of essential nutrients inhibiting growth and repair. So we know toxic elements like arsenic and lead are bad for us, but is it possible that if we're deficient in these toxic metals to some degree, could it affect our health?
All right.
Yes or no?
Angela from YouTube, I understand that you had a Sjogren syndrome. What did you do to treat it? And what advice can you share as I now have it? I don't know if I said that right. Sjogren's?
Sjogren's, yeah. I
Sjogren's.
never had it. So I don't know who said I had it, but yeah, it's an autoimmune disease. It affects the connective tissue. It can affect the skin. It can affect the joints. It can affect the digestion. I think the best thing to do is to take high levels of vitamin D, because that can actually help you hopefully put some of these symptoms in remission and act as an anti-inflammatory. So that would be the most important thing to do, and then try to focus on just creating as much health as you possibly can by doing the healthy keto, and especially prolonged fasting, regular intermittent fasting, because when you fast, you heal the immune system. So that's what I would recommend for that.
Very good. Okay, I've got Sandra all set up for us. And Sandra, if you'll unmute yourself, you're on with Dr. Berg for your one question. Go.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Thank you for sharing all your years of experience with health and wellness and nutrition with all of us. And I now understand why I feel so much better with prolonged fasting. My question is, I'm now in my 4th month of following your healthy keto and intermittent fasting guidelines, which has included your recommended liver support supplements. And I'm wondering, will I eventually be able to eliminate my symptoms from tyramine intolerance, since so many healthy keto food and supplements are high in tyramine?
I think it's potentially possible, but as long as you keep everything else in check, I think you can definitely eliminate these intolerances. It's a good question, because I'll get other people that will say, if I do this long enough, will I be able to get rid of like an autoimmune disease, or will I be able to get rid of insulin resistance or my diabetes? The answer is yes, but but it comes with kind of a catch-22, like, well, can I ever go back to my normal foods? I'm like, no, because those are not normal foods. So if you're maintaining these things, I think you absolutely positively can do that, because even if you have a genetic problem, the genes don't control you. It's like the epigenetics, your lifestyle, what you do, you as a person can actually override that and really put these genes under your control. So absolutely, positively, yes.
Thank you.
That's terrific. Well, thank you. And why don't you get back with us, as we ask everyone to do, Sandra, and let us know how you're doing, and if you were able to move past this particular challenge. And we sure appreciate you coming on with us from Salt Lake. All right.
Hey, Steve, I just want to another story. I had someone. This is a long time ago. They called me up and they said, "Yeah, your program didn't work." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I did it for 2 weeks and it did help, but then I went back to my normal foods and then it came back." I said, "Okay, what are you eating?" It's just completely junk food. But the liver actually takes a beating. It can bounce back fairly quick, but it does take a longer time to really stabilize the liver. But there's data that you could strip off 50% of the fat in your liver within 2 weeks. I mean, that's like,
wow,
incredible to be able to do that. And so I've seen some incredible things. The body has this incredible ability to bounce back and heal itself if put in the right condition.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I always chime in And the biggest factor that I've found in following these guidelines, no cures involved, is my emotional state. I really suffer when I eat sugar and carbs and all that. I mean, and it takes about 2 or 3 days if I get off healthy eating for me to really realize I don't know why am I so depressed? Why am I so down? And it seems like it sneaks up on me, and I realize, well, and so that's been a good rod, so to speak, to keep me on check more than weight or perception of some kind of health, because I feel good. I like to feel good, and emotionally that comes about a lot less depression and so on, just from eating, as you said, real food. It's not like you're trying to sacrifice or something. You're just trying to get rid of the junk that seems to surround us today. So thank you for that, Dr. Berg.
Yeah, I think so. For some reason, you just don't like feeling depressed. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I don't like it. Some people, I think they really love it, but for me, not for me.
Okay.
All right. So we had our first quiz question, which you kind of regurgitated in a different way, but we're trusting that the audience understood what you said. And here's the following answers from them. 80% of the respondents say it's true, and 20% say it's false.
This is a very interesting thing, because this is something very new for me as an understanding, because in my mind, I thought all toxic metals were just toxic, but apparently they have the potential, at least in animal studies, they can act as an essential nutrient. And if you deplete them of 100% of it, you start having problems in reproduction and growth. So this kind of, leads me to believe that all these things in the earth, all these minerals, the trace minerals, probably we need all of them to some degree. And because if you look at, there's only so many essential minerals or trace minerals or vitamins, but other ones are not essential because, we really haven't found the evidence, but that doesn't mean it's not essential. They just haven't found it yet. But so I think we do need everything as a package. But just the key with the toxic metals is or poisons is it's the dose. That's the dose. So you want to keep it low.
Becca from YouTube, I think she's got a good question. Should I be taking your gallbladder formula if I already have gallstones?
Well, bile salts, which is in the gallbladder formula, has been known to help break down gallstones. So that would be a smart thing to do, because what is a gallstone? It's a super concentrated, usually cholesterol stone. Well, how did it develop? What condition? It develops from a person not having enough bile, but yet having too much concentrated cholesterol. So what do? Do we just cut out the cholesterol, or do we just increase the bile? Well, I like number 2. That seems to be smarter.
So here's poor Sandy from Facebook. How can I get rid of bloating? I don't eat as much as I should because of the bloating. My doctors gave me meds for gas and bloating, but they're not working. Help.
Yeah, I'll release that video that I did on bloating. Apparently, I didn't release it yet because this is the video that you need to watch. The most important thing to realize about bloating, it's not about adding something to the diet or a remedy or anything. You want to subtract something. You want to get rid of something. It's usually related to food. Okay, it's related to food. And at the very top of the list, what creates the bloating is the gas from the microbes. The microbes are fermenting something, and they usually ferment these things called carbohydrates. And what happens is that if you can eliminate right now, not just what you might think is carbohydrates, but also the fiber, which is a carbohydrate, that would be a good thing, and start cutting down fiber. And that includes all these newfangled functional fibers that are in the keto treats, especially like the inulin and the gargum and all these different fibers that they come out with. So I would just corn soluble fiber, tapioca fiber, just like get rid of all those and go low on the vegetables right now too. And of course, I'm assuming you're not doing grains or fruit because that's the worst, or beans, but just eliminate the grains. and start cutting down vegetables. Maybe you want to cook them or have some just fermented a small amount. And that gas should go away versus trying to add a remedy. I would do that secondarily because it's usually you're eating something that's fermenting in the wrong place, like in your small intestine. But I will release this video, which I think will explain everything. I'll try to do that tomorrow.
David from Facebook, is there a relationship between diet sodas and elevated glucose levels?
Good question. Yes and no. There's kind of a mixed study on that. I think they do indirectly, because they do affect the microbiome. So these artificial sweeteners affect the microbiome. If you affect the microbiome, that can create insulin resistance. It can create problems in many different issues with blood sugars and insulin problems. So the answer would be yes.
Ben from Facebook, what are the best sources of natural potassium?
Our bodies need at least 4,700 milligrams. 4,700. That's a lot. That's more quantity than any other nutrient that you would need. It's just like our bodies need a lot of potassium. So what has a lot of potassium? The leafy greens, avocados, vegetables, things like that. There is potassium in fish and meats as well, but not as much. There is potassium in fruit, but it comes with a lot of the sugar. So the best source would be consuming. I like to get it from salad. And so I'll do about 7 to 10 cups of salad every single day. Might seem like a lot, but it's not too bad. If you have more of a dense vegetable, you can do maybe 4 to 5 cups a day. It's not that hard. That's where you get your potassium. The best sources. The banana is just loaded way too much fructose, which is going to act just like alcohol in your liver. So we don't want to do that. So I think that's what you're missing. And then that should handle the void of potassium.
Debbie from YouTube, I'm sorry about her question. What's the best way to naturally address cancer of the stomach?
Well, I've done videos on this. You should watch all of them. And the most important thing to do is a prolonged fast. Depending on the severity, if it's a stage 4, you'd want to do no less than 21-day fast right off the bat. Of course, taking your nutrients along the way, but that just adds such a great protection. Even if you decide to get chemo or radiation, the fasting makes your cells stronger. So here's the challenge that people are up against with cancer. You don't want to end up in the boat like this person is. You want to do everything you can to avoid or prevent cancer. So, but unfortunately, sometimes we don't do that, and all of a sudden we end up with it. So now we're in a situation. If you go the medical route, it does get rid of cancer, but there's always a very small amount of cancer cells that survive, and they become stronger. And the recurrence, there's a high probability of it recurring. And so now we have to deal with that. So there's a protocol that we have on in some of the videos on someone else's website, not mine, that was based on some research we did in Europe that involves a certain protocol of nutrition to help block this certain enzyme or biochemical pathway that cancer cells need to build their membranes. So that's a really strategic way to kind of put things at bay. But more important than that is this prolonged fasting. You need to start doing that on a regular basis and get some leverage over this cancer.
Okay, very good. What would you suggest for those of us who don't, or at least we hope we don't, have cancer as a sort of preventative type fast? What kind of length and what frequency would we do that?
I should actually create a video on this. In fact, I will, because like Sun Tzu has a book, The Technology of War. It's not The Art of War. I'd get The Technology of War. It's a great book. You can get it online on Amazon. But there's a principle that Sun Tzu used Sun Tzu used of winning his battles by avoiding battle. It's winning the war without going to battle. So this is all about prevention. So you have to understand the nature, the intention of a cancer cell and get all that intel information. So then you can understand it more. Like with cancer, it starts off as a normal cell and then it converts over into a cancer cell. Interesting. So why? Well, it's your there's damage in the cell in a very specific part of the cell called the mitochondria. So that is the secret to preventing cancers, to avoid things that damage the mitochondria. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's go right down the list. What damages mitochondria? Processed foods, refined foods, especially refined sugars, refined carbohydrates, very stress, chronic stress will do it. Inactivity, not exercising as a causation factor. And then probably what's so significant about inactivity is that exercise itself is probably the biggest inducer of making your mitochondria strong and bigger and more robust and more efficient because of the energy factory. So exercise alone is one of the most potent ways to prevent cancer that I can even think of. And then if you also do intermittent fasting, where your cell goes into autophagy and starts not just the regular cells, but the mitochondria does a little autophagy. It's called mitophagy. And it actually, these damaged mitochondria get absorbed and into the body, and then they get rebuilt. So the damaged ones get fixed and the ones that are too damaged get replaced. I mean, talk about the ultimate preventative for cancers is the fasting. And then we have the keto, the healthy version of the ketogenic diet too. So the program that I recommend, I think, is one of the best ways to avoid cancer because it's creating health, it's avoiding carbs, and you're reducing stress and you're exercising. It's like really good epigenetic factors.
Romeo from Facebook, is keto okay for someone with mitochondrial disease? Is there a disease specific to that?
It's especially good for that. In fact, I don't know of any other therapy that would be good for that. But yes, it's the mitochondria loves ketones. Ketones give a lot more efficiency to the mitochondria. The mitochondria is a factory, and it's a fascinating factory that turns your food into energy. And there's even there's a battery going on in there too with electrons and all sorts of things. It's fascinating. And so keto diet is the best thing for your mitochondria that you can do. Now, once you have cancer, there's some additional things that you need to do, and we talk about that in the videos on cancer, especially the most recent ones.
All right. Well, good luck with that, and let's get wish the audience good luck with the next question. Here's another true-falser for you.
Okay, true or false? The liver accumulates and stores toxins as one of its functions.
Seaham from Facebook, could you please make a video on seborrheic dermatitis, face and scalp?
Yeah, that's a classic omega-3 fatty acid deficiency. So you need fish oils. I wouldn't do fish oils. I would do cod liver oil. And that way you can have the vitamin D and the vitamin A, both essential for your skin. But that's really what you're running into as a deficiency of that. It's either that you don't have enough of it in your diet, or you have too much of the competitor, which is omega-6 fatty acids, which are in the corn oil, the canola oil, the soy oil, the cottonseed oil, those type of hidden things in our food supply, as well as, if you're going out to any restaurants, you're going to get a lot of those foods. And unfortunately, a lot of the meats, especially chicken, are fed these grains with a lot of omega-6. So you're not getting the ratios unless you're doing the pasture-raised eggs or the chickens that are from the farm that they don't only eat grains. And then the grass-fed, grass-finished beef or lamb is going to be very important.
All right, very good. Jotaro from YouTube. My urine is brown. I have normal CPK levels, although they get higher after exercise, and my creatine levels are normal. What's going on?
Sounds like you need a deeper test to figure out what's going on. I will be doing a video on this. There's a completely, I think, brand new field of evaluation that I'm very interested in. I'm studying it right now, hardcore, and it's called metabolomics, and it's the study of metabolites. What's that? It's like the end product of a lot of the proteins in the body. You're looking at biomarkers that give you clues on the biochemistry of your body. So if you were to get a test, metabolomic test, you're checking like maybe the urine or your blood. And instead of just looking at the usual stuff, you're looking at a lot more data involved in the biochemical pathways. There's motion involved in these pathways. And it's just a matter of understanding these end products in this pathway to see what's blocked, or see what's moving too much, or whatever, or what's toxic. And then from there, you can really figure out what's going on. Unfortunately, medicine is the opposite of that. They just basically they diagnose and treat. You know, we didn't find anything. Here's these medications. A close person around me is on 14 different drugs, and very young, and they can't figure it out, so they keep giving more drugs. I'm like, wow, talk about not understanding the biochemistry and really figuring out why in the first place. And a very kind of like the diet is not important. Let's just kind of ignore that. Completely crazy. So stay tuned for more information about this, because yes, the DNA testing is important, but this metabolomic testing is, I think, the wave of the future for medicine, and finding someone that really can understand, interpret it, that's good, is going to be really good. So of course they have to overcome some of the drug companies, but at the very least, you can be aware of what this test is and find a really good, competent doctor that can do the evaluation and help you and your family.
All right, very good. Let's see. Our second question, true, false, asked, the liver accumulates and stores toxins as one of its functions. And the audience said, at least 95% of them, that it's true, and the other 5% are holding out for a false.
False, Steve. It's completely false. The liver does not store or accumulate toxins. And this is good that this is coming up, because it's very important to understand that the liver, fat cells accumulate toxins, but not the liver cells. The liver cells detoxify. They remove poisons, but they don't hold toxins. There are detoxification mechanisms going on in the liver that just turns toxins into poisons, but they don't accumulate them. That's interesting. So they get rid of them, and so they take a fat soluble toxin and turn it into a water soluble toxin, and then it goes right out through the bile ducts, out into the small intestine, and out through your stool. So some of it goes out to the kidney too. But I think that's important to know.
All right. So Elena from YouTube, why am I still getting hot flashes at 69 years of age?
Ah, man, I'm sorry to hear that. That must really be terrible. But there are some things that hopefully you can try. I would take vitamin E in the form of tocotrienols. I would take that before bed. I would also, if that doesn't work, I would try sea kelp to get some extra iodine. If that didn't help, number 3, I would use what's called whole desiccated adrenal support to support the adrenals, to hopefully help bolster that backup organ, the adrenals, so then that whole pathway can actually be more complete, from your pituitary to your hypothalamus down to the ovaries, which are kind of gone into retirement. So you have this backup adrenal that's kind of doing all the work right now. I will say this, Steve, there's especially for women and even men as they get older, um, one thing that's very important for hormones to make sure they have enough hormones, and they're sex hormones, um, is all of these hormones are made from cholesterol. So anything that blocks cholesterol, anything that inhibits it, or if you're going on a low cholesterol diet, you may find a worsening of your body, especially the endocrine system, if you're going low cholesterol. That's one thing. The other precursor to a lot of these hormones is DHEA. You don't need, if you're a female, you don't need a lot, just a little bit, but that can really act as a nice fulfillment of your hormones. So you can have this more raw material for your hormones to exist in, and men can have more too. If you have too much, it could make too much testosterone, but women actually need a certain amount of testosterone to be healthy. So you don't want to bring it down to zero. And so what's interesting about testosterone and estrogen is all of the estrogen that both men and women have actually come from testosterone, which is interesting. So it converts into that. So anyway, there's a lot to it, but that should give you some basic things.
Good. Well, good luck with that. Hot flashes at 69 is awful. Let's go back to the green room. This time we have Jerry coming to us from Toledo, Ohio. And if you're unmuted, Jerry, go ahead with your question, please.
Hi, Dr. Berg. First off, big fan, love your show. My background is nutrition and exercise. I'm a retired school teacher and coach, and I just love your show. I have one of my best friends is a practitioner, and he says that within the first 15 minutes to 30 minutes of waking up, you should have either protein or fat. Otherwise, your liver will release sugar, and then in turn will boost your blood sugar. And because I personally feel better when I do intermittent fasting, but he says that when you do that, your body is spiking your blood sugar, and then for the rest of the day, your blood sugar is going to be basically like a super ball going up and down if you don't eat. First thing in the morning.
I would love to talk to him and to see his reasoning behind that, because what he's talking about is something called gluconeogenesis. The liver makes sugar, right? The liver makes sugar, and you usually see this with diabetics in a significant way. Their liver is pumping out all this sugar because they have insulin resistance. What we're trying to do is we're trying to fix insulin resistance. If you wake up in the morning and you have high sugar and you didn't eat any sugar, that means you have insulin resistance, and that's called the dawn phenomena, and that's a lot of gluconeogenesis. And the way to solve that is to fix insulin resistance, which you do by fasting. So you have a couple of things that happen in the morning. If you don't eat, your body's going to then keep tapping into the reserves of fat for fuel once you're converted. I think what he's missing, the data he's missing, is that what you're doing is you're converting your body over to ketones as fuel, and that takes it some time, but you're running off ketones. You're no longer running on glucose, so you don't have to worry about that next meal getting your fuel because you converted over the fat fuel. So and all the fuel that your body needs, including glucose, can be made from your own body's tapping into fat. And so if you actually do eat a breakfast or eat protein or fat in the morning, what's going to happen now, especially if you eat that protein, you're going to spike your insulin, okay? And then that's going to lower the blood sugar. Then about an hour and a half, you're going to be hungry. And it starts the whole cycle. If you don't eat and you're fat adapted, your body is going to basically be mobilizing fat, and you can go for long periods of time. And even, I mean, here's the thing to do is just check your blood sugars. They should be normal in the morning if you're adapted, and if you're not a diabetic and you don't have insulin resistance. So your blood sugars will be normal. And so I think that would solve the argument right there, is just to check your blood sugars. And then let's say the blood sugars are high. would you want to eat if they're high? No, you want to exercise. So I guess that would be my answer, but I would love to kind of talk to that person and work out through what they're thinking or what they're using or what reference they're using. And then we could actually figure out really where the confusion is, because I really think it's just the absence of knowledge of the keto adaptation.
One other quick question, if I may. As far as when I do intermittent fasting, I'm at the present time trying to lose around 50 pounds. And from my understanding, I should be getting about 1 gram of protein per lean body mass in order to maintain my muscle mass. And when I intermittent fast, I usually go till 1 or 2 o'clock and then stop eating around 6 o'clock. According to that method, I would be needing to get around 200 grams of protein. And is that possible, or is that a good idea in your eyes?
No, I think that data is usually for bodybuilders, maybe in their 20s. You might need that much. I would go with 0.65 to 8 grams. So that would be less. And then the other thing too is when you start cutting down your protein, because you're doing intermittent fasting too, your efficiency of those amino acids become better because you're going through autophagy. And you're like, the question is, if you go on a long fast, where are you getting your protein? It's from autophagy. Your body's recycling, cleaning up all the damaged protein and using that as new protein. That is kind of where you want to go into to start replenishing the protein you have. So I think I would have a little less protein and just make sure it's quality, which I think you're already doing. Eggs, fish, healthy meats. And then I think you're going to be totally fine.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much, Jerry, for joining us from Toledo.
And Steve, I think I've mentioned this before. I have a lot of arthritis and old injuries, fracturing bones, arthritis in my neck, and I have to really work at that because of the arthritis. So I've decided to go do some stem cell therapy, and the type that is the real stem cells therapy, where you're basically taking fat cells from your body and then doing something with them and re-injecting them into your body to get the stem cells. So I'm going to be doing that in 3 weeks, which I'll have to do a video on that. But the problem that I have, Steve, is that you need to have a certain level of fat to be able to do that. And I don't have enough fat, so I have to get some fat. And unfortunately, I can't use someone else's fat, because I did find a lot of people that would volunteer their fat for this cause. So I'm doing the exact opposite that I'm telling people to. I'm having snacks between meals, doing apples to try to gain enough fat in 3 weeks to be able to have enough fat to do this, which it's really wild to reverse this flow, because I don't feel good. I don't feel good doing this. Like, I got brain fog. I feel tired. I'm like, okay, I can't wait till this is done. But I have to literally have gain about 5 to 7 pounds of actual fat on my body. So,
well, that's
some people
not
love that, but I don't like it. But
that's not a test
let you
tube
know.
worth of fat, right? I mean, they want like a bowling ball full of it. That's amazing. I guess they have to harvest that much. 5 pounds of extra fat is actually way more than you might think. Oh yeah. Okay, Pretzel Maker from YouTube. Is it normal for blood sugars to spike after exercise? That's interesting.
It's not normal, because it should go down because you're burning off your sugar, but there could be like some compensating thing, and also you can have like insulin resistance, and that could create a problem, because you're also generating a lot of stress hormones, cortisol, and you might be mobilizing sugar. And if you're doing intense exercise, you're actually living off your sugar. You're mobilizing the stored glycogen, but you're going to be using that. So it might go up temporarily to feed the muscles because you're doing a type of exercise. But if you have a lower level aerobic exercise where you're doing long walks or bike, things like that, within the first 30 minutes, you're going to be burning off a lot of that stored sugar, and your blood sugars are not going to usually go up. And but your body will try to keep them from going down too by mobilizing different types of fuel. So normally it shouldn't go up.
Question number 3, here it is.
Why can't we assess a magnesium deficiency in a blood test?
All right, that's very interesting. Audience, climb on it. Look in your crystal ball and come back. By the way, our producer Terry has a recommendation. He said for you to join me at Krispy Kreme for a week or two, and you'll have the necessary tonnage to proceed with your test.
Oh, you know what? That's a really good point, because I could very easily just live on potato chips and popcorn and stuff like that. The problem with that is you don't want to do this with all the extra inflammation that comes through with those carbohydrates. If you do things like maybe sweet potato or berries, a lot of berries and apples, what'll happen is that you'll get at least less inflammation as you gain more weight and fat.
Interesting. Well, Terry, you should be ashamed of yourself. I want you to retract that suggestion right away. Carmen from YouTube, I'm allergic to seafood. What alternatives would you suggest to provide the same types of nutrition?
Well, probably the biggest nutrient that you're going to run into as being deficient is the omega-3 fatty acids. So you could probably maybe do algae. Algae might be a solution for the omega-3. As far as the iodine goes, hopefully you're not sensitive to iodine, because you need iodine. And I mean, the question is, could you do sea kelp? Is that a possibility? Because that would give you the iodine that you need.
Why don't we wrap up the green room, and we're going to go to Osiris. And Osiris, if you'll unmute yourself, you're on with Dr. Berg.
Dr. Berg, good morning. It's a privilege to speak to you and ask you a question. I've recently been watching a lot of your videos, and it's very informative. I'm 5'6", I'm considered morbidly obese, and I don't have any issues as far as cholesterol or diabetic, but I do feel that there's so much information. I've run across intermittent fasting, I've run across the carnivore diet, I've run across what you've shared with keto, and I just, some direction as far as so much information out there. I was thinking initially of doing a 36-hour fast to quick start my metabolism and get some testosterone, and then go into a 20/4-hour intermittent fasting to do strictly carnivore. But then I know you've done videos on 16/8 and keto. My wife, she's plant-based, and so I'm not plant-based. I don't like it. But I was just wondering if you can share some information. My cholesterol is about 220. It's a little on the high side, but that's because I've eaten poor meats as opposed to grass-fed, grass-finished. And from time to time, I have the occasional coffee with sugar, or when I'm driving, I feel the fog, so I have to pull over and grab a donut just to get things back into a focused mind. But I don't want to be that way. I don't want to be morbidly obese. I'm 51. I'm about 270. I want to be at around 205. What
Got
would
it.
you recommend?
Yeah. So how would you say your willpower is in general? Do you have a lot of discipline, or do you have some weaknesses within the discipline or the willpower?
I would say, if I'm being honest with myself, when I'm focused and I'm targeted on a goal, I can reach it. Because I'm where I'm at, I can't honestly say, oh yeah, I'm focused and I have willpower, because I've gotten so big, right? There's one thing to say it, and then another thing to actually see it, the fruit of it. Again, by the grace of God, I don't have any major diseases or illnesses, but I can improve on the willpower for sure.
Okay, great. So so when you enter into this ketosis, there's a couple ways of going about it. You can just do one or the other if you wanted. If you want to go low carb, or you can do fasting. Like Steve, for example, does more of the fasting than the keto. If you combine both of them, you'll get there faster. So I think the best way to do this is step 1, cut out snacks. Step 2, cut out your breakfast. and then also start preparing your food. So in your house, there's not a lot of these little snack foods or refined carbs that you could go to. It'd make it difficult to go get them. To make it easier on yourself, just kind of make sure you replace a lot of the foods in your fridge and stuff, so you don't have all these temptations. And so that'll make it a little bit easier. And then here's the thing: as soon as you start to take action and just start, you're going to notice something like, wow, it's my cravings are less. I'm not as hungry. So that's going to make it easier. And then you keep going, and then you take your lunch and your dinner as 2 meals, and then you slowly start to collapse them. With someone like you, you'll probably do the best if you can do 1 meal a day and don't worry about calories. Just have 1 meal a day. And then that way you have like 20, more than 20 hours of fasting. And that would actually get you to where you need to go, really A to B, if you add exercise to that. And plus, there's no cravings, so it's going to make it a lot easier. And then the only other thing you have to deal with at that point is like past habits that you have, like routines, social activity, temptation with other people, birthdays, events, and those type of things, which is a problem. But you want to build on your success. And I think what's really cool about the fasting is that it actually strengthens your willpower, because it's like you have to avoid something, and then you'll get stronger over time. And then once you do it and you get the results, then you won't go back, because you're going to feel so good. Just like Steve, you're going to just feel good. Like, wow, this is really worth it. And then fill in all the other details with the videos I have. But right now, I think you have enough information to be dangerous. I mean, successful. So it's just a matter of diving in. I wouldn't even do anything from right now other than I'm starting immediately, and then dive right in, get your feet wet, don't think about it, and then just keep being educated about it, because there's no reason at your age why you shouldn't be 205 and feel strong, and then avoid all the other health problems that come along with the issues of having insulin resistance.
Dr. Berg, I do have one other question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the mornings, apple cider vinegar or krill oil versus fish oil, just those additional supplements that will supplement or add, I should say, to what I'm not eating. Do you recommend doing those type of supplements in a carnivore, or those type of supplements in a keto type?
Both. Because there's 2 main categories. So see, when you do carnivore or keto, they're both ketogenic diets. The carnivore is just without any plants. Okay, so you're not doing vegetables or fruits or anything like that. So they're both keto. So when you burn ketones, there's 2 general things that you need to be aware of. One is the electrolytes, including sea salt, more of those, and then B vitamins, because that way you just satisfied more of the demand for those 2 categories, and then you'll have very little complications. You feel good. You'll substitute all the things you need. But you mentioned the krill for the omega-3. That's another thing. But you could, being carnivore or keto, easily get that from fish oils, things like that. So, but the electrolytes and the B vitamins are 2 at the top of the list. Of course, if you get electrolytes with trace minerals, then that's the icing on the cake. I'm sorry, I shouldn't talk about cake, but the trace minerals are going to be good for you, like the zinc, for testosterone, iodine, or brain IQ. So I think that would be my answer on that.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
That's great, Osiris. Thanks for a great call. And let's go to question number 3, which asked, why can't we assess magnesium deficiency in a blood test? And we've got, is that called a quorum? 100% say because it's stored in the tissue and bones and not in the blood.
That is correct. 99% of all magnesium is not in the blood. It's inside the cell, intracellular. So that goes along with other nutrients too, like potassium. I mean, the thing about the blood is the body does everything it can to keep a constant in the blood. So this is the problem when you get a blood test. It doesn't really give you a lot of information. It doesn't tell you what's happening with your insulin levels. Because there's a lot of things compensating to keep that blood stable. So there's other testing, like I said, that metabolomic testing that looks deeper into the cells within the blood and other tissues to really figure this out. But I want to do more videos on this because, boy, if I had that in practice, oh my goodness, it would be a game changer. This new technology of being able to test people in a more dynamic way and really figure things out, because it's all about just getting more knowledge about or information about someone's problem. And that's really what we need more of, to get all the information so we can solve the mystery. Okay, true or false? There is strong evidence that depression is a serotonin deficiency in the brain.
Climb on that, folks. Becky from YouTube, should menopausal women do OMAD? I need to lose 60 pounds.
Absolutely, yes, they should do OMAD. And that would give you good 23 hours of fasting, which is going to be awesome to be able to, start finally tapping into your fat, so you can actually run on your fat, use the fat up to the point where you can really hit your goal. I think that would be smart.
All right, very good. Mary from Facebook, can DIM help with night sweats for someone who is menopausal and under a great deal of stress?
Yes. DIM is a concentrated cruciferous compound. These plant-based estrogens that like cruciferous, for example, they're phytoestrogens, and people don't understand, like, what does that mean? It means they have the ability to act like estrogen, but help balance estrogen, so you don't have the dangerous one, you have the protective one. So that you don't have to worry about getting more estrogen by taking these compounds, because that's not how they work. I mean, just take a look at the strength of them. I mean, it's like 10,000 to 100,000 times less strong on the receptors for estrogen. So you're talking about real subtle changes, but potent changes to help balance estrogen within the receptors, to balance out the good and bad, to lower the risk of things like breast cancer and estrogen dominance and fibroids and ovarian cyst and fibrocystic breast disease, things like that.
There is a strong evidence that depression is a serotonin deficiency in the brain, and they can't make up their mind. 50% say yay, 50% say nay.
There is zero actual evidence that there is a serotonin deficiency in your brain. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter. And there's a drug, antipsychotic, called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And basically what they do is they block the receptor for serotonin, so then your serotonin level goes up. There is no evidence that will improve depression, but it can create an emotion numbing effect, numbing your emotions and also numbing other things too. There's a severe side effect of black box warning label suicide. There's other things like numbing of your genitalia, erectile dysfunction, which can last for a long time, even if you stop the medication. So it's a really crazy thing, because this theory that you have a chemical imbalance in the brain has not proven out to be true at all. Yet they've sold billions and billions and billions of these drugs. And unfortunately, someone goes in there thinking there's a lot of research behind this, but there's not. There's not any research that shows that in fact, there is some research that shows that too much serotonin causes depression. So anyway, I want to release a video on that. And it's, since if I'm not mistaken, I think at least 15 to 20% of the population is on a psych drug. They should know more about this information. They should know the research, and they should also be given alternatives like vitamin D. Vitamin D. Think about it in the winter. People get depressed. Why? Because of the lack of vitamin D. But there's other things too. But stay tuned for that video.
Teresa from YouTube, I love spirulina. Please share with us your thoughts on the benefits of spirulina.
NASA studied spirulina for their astronauts in space because it literally is one of the nutrient-dense foods out there, and just have to find a way to consume it. But it has protein, it has all the vitamins, it has the minerals. It's very, very interesting. It has B12. And so if you're a vegan, you should be doing spirulina on a regular basis. It's chlorophyll. It has phytonutrients. So it's a really good product, and you can get it in a shake as a vegetable or a salad substitute. So I have some information on my website on that. But for those people that don't like salads, you can drink your salad. Spirulina is just a good source of that.
Lily from YouTube, I am fasting and wondering how much wheatgrass powder can I have without breaking my fast or disrupting autophagy? Would the guidelines be the same for chlorella? Did I say that right?
They're both similar. One's algae, one's from a wheatgrass, but realize there's under 1 calorie. One calorie per serving. So you're not going to have to worry about your blood sugars. You're not going to have to worry about autophagy, because it's so, this whole breaking of ketosis has to do with calories, how many calories. It's not, and it's just insignificant. So I wouldn't worry about supplements unless you start adding in these protein supplements, protein powders, the whey protein powders, that type of thing. Well, thank you so much for your attention, your questions. Stay tuned for more interesting videos this next week. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next week.